Alright, welcome back. In this video we are going to get started on the map system. Now this one's going to take a few videos to get through, but I promise you each video is detailed and walks you through the whole step. So a couple of things real quick. First off, I want to warn you that I am working on a new keyboard from this video forward. It is a mechanical keyboard, and those tend to be quite a bit louder than a typical membrane keyboard, but hopefully it's not too loud that it's distracting. The second thing I want to cover real quick, a few videos ago we had an issue with collecting these coins right up here. Our character was up here and I jumped into the coins when the character's collision box collided with these coins that are lined up evenly. It was only counting one coin when I was collecting two. I have looked into it, and unfortunately I have not found the solution to that. I tested it many times. It is still happening on occasion. It doesn't happen all the time. The workaround that I found is if you stagger these coins, meaning we can just move them out like that, or instead of moving them out so far, we could go turn our snapping off, and then we could just move them a couple pixels at a time. That would give us a much better chance that the player would collide with one of the coins before it would collide with any of the others, therefore counting all three instead of collecting two at the exact same time and only counting one. So I just wanted to clear that up. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for it at this time, but I did want to acknowledge that I did look into it. And that is one of the things we have to deal with when developing a game. I'm not sure the reason why. I have to assume it has something to do with the Construct 3 game engine, but I'm not going to point any fingers. So from that, I am going to move into making the map. I'm going to just kind of move that down a little, and then over here in our project panel under the menus folder, right click on the menus folder and select add a layout, and the map is going to have its own event sheet, so we want to add an event sheet with it. I'm going to rename the layout in all caps, just map, M-A-P. And then I'll go down here to this event sheet, and I double click to call it up. I will click again to rename it. I'm going to call this E_map. And I will move this into the menus folder. I'm going to change my colors here. So on my event sheet, I'm going to change the tab color to black, the text color to white, and then my layout, the tab color to yellow, and the text is already black. So I'm set. Okay, so here is our map layout. You can see our dotted line, that's our viewport, and that is at 360 by 640. Is that right? Yeah, 360 by 640. So for the map, we're going to be able to scroll the map up and down, but not left and right. I want this to kind of work like a map does on like a match 3 type of game, where the levels are laid out on your map and have a path going from one to the other. And then you play a level, and if you pass it, you unlock the next level. But we won't be able to fit too many levels on just a 360 by 640 screen. So I want to make this longer so that we can scroll up and down. So I'm going to click on our layout, and I'm going to go up here to the size, and the width is going to stay at 360. And then I will put a comma, and then I'm just going to double the length. So 640 will be 1280 for the length. And I'll zoom out here. You can see that we have our viewport with that dotted line, and then we have a whole nother screen length to go that we can add more levels and more paths to the levels. Over here in the layers, I'm going to click on that and rename this tile_grass. Then I'm going to add another one to the top, and I'm going to call this tile_path. With the tile grass layer selected, double click on the layout. I'm going to scroll down to tiled background. Place that. And then I'm going to go up here to the load image from file. And in our tiles folder, we have tile map paths and tile map grass. We're going to select tile map grass, open that up. This is a 64 by 64 block. We can exit out of that. Let's go up here and rename this tile underscore map grass. And I'm going to move that into the tiles folder. I'll open that so we can see it. And then I'm going to take our grass object and I turn my snapping off. So I'll turn my snapping back on and then take our grass object up to the top. And I'm just going to drag it to cover all of the area that we will be able to see. Lock that layer. I'm going to select the tile path and double click. Come down to tile map and I'll insert that. And of course we're going to go up to load image from file. And this time we're going to pick tile map paths and then we can exit out of that. Let's rename it tile underscore map path. And then I will move that into the tiles folder. And you see our tile map is already stretched over the entire length of the layer. And if yours isn't, go ahead and stretch it out. Looks good to me. I'll go ahead and stretch it one more just to make sure everything covers. And before we move on, I just want to show you something in our tile map up here. I have 4 types of paths. We have a straight up and down, straight sideways, and then I have either angled to the left or angled to the down direction or left to up. And the reason it's made this way is because we can flip these, or actually we can mirror these, but you don't want to flip them. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I just select this one here and I select the pencil tool, I can zoom in here, and if I paint over the grass, we have these, the darker colored pixels simulate grass. Very artistic, I know. And if we come over here and we need this to go the other way, we can mirror it, and that will turn it around. But if we were to flip it to go down, you can see that our darker colored pixels are now facing the wrong way. And the reason I left the grass in these tiles is because if the path happened to cover the darker colored pixels on the grass tile, it just wouldn't look right. So I made their own little grass tiles underneath the paths. We are going to come back to that. I just wanted to get that explained. I'm going to lock the path tile layer, add another layer to the top, call this one map levels. And with that layer selected, I am going to double click on the layout and scroll down to sprite, insert it, come down to the animation panel down here this time, and I'm going to right click, import frames from files. Navigate back to the animations folder, and you'll notice that we have these 6 castle sprites. I'm going to select all of them and open. And as always, when you import a bunch of frames, it leaves this first one blank. We don't need that. I'm going to delete it. So let me explain these castles and the frames. This first one you see is darker than the rest. That is to show that the castle is grayed out, as in it is not playable. And then we have the swords crossing in front of it, just kind of an added visual to say this level is locked. This second frame is the exact same, except it's not grayed out. And I don't know why that made it in, but we don't need it. So I'm going to right click and delete that. So all you should have is these 5 sprites. The grayed out sprite, the unlocked sprite, this means it's playable, and then these 3 sprites. This means you passed the level and earned 1 crown, 2 crowns, and 3 crowns. So let's check our origin and make sure that it is at the bottom left. This will help when we have our snapping on. We can line it up with the path tiles that we draw out here in a little bit. And one last thing before we go, back on the first frame, if you zoom in, you'll notice on the left side, this is the exact same sprite. I just darkened it, and some reason this part did not get shade it in. If yours looks like this is an easy fix. I'm going to grab our eyedropper tool and I'm going to get this gray color. And then I'm going to take the fill tool and just fill it in. Okay, that should be good. We can exit out of this and let's rename this obj underscore level underscore 1. So there is a reason for this naming convention. The way that the map system is set up, we are going to need one of these sprites for every level that we create. And if we name it like this, whenever we go to make more sprites, we will clone them. The Construct 3 game engine will change this 1 to a 2. Another reason for this naming convention is we will be referencing the number on the end of the object name as well. So we want to make sure that whatever you call it, make sure that the level number is the very last thing in the name. Now I'll show you what I'm talking about cloning it. If we just left click on this and say clone object type, and I place it, I have it selected and it renamed it obj level 2 for us. So I'm going to do that a few more times. In fact, I think we have enough room to put at least 8 levels on this length of map. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just going to take obj level 2, right click on it, say clone object type, place it, and it renames it for us. Okay, doesn't matter where they are, we will be moving these around. Over in our project panel, if we open up our sprites folder, we have a levels folder, doesn't have anything in it yet. Select all of these objects and slide them into that levels folder. And then we can scroll back up to the top, come over to our tile path and unlock that. I'm going to place the first object close to the top, but not all the way at the top, because we're going to have a button up here. So I want to leave a little bit of room. And then I'm going to take level 2 and just put it over here somewhere. And then we can select our path. And with our tile map selected, come over here to the properties and let's change the tile width to 64 and the height to 64. So now when we select, we have a full 64 by 64 selection square. So I'm going to select that, take my pencil tool, and just start painting. So here's one of those situations where I want to use this one, but I'm going to need it to be mirrored to go the other way. So we can mirror, do it that way, and each time you change something like a mirror or transform anything, hit the X and reset, and then continue on. Okay, now that we have all that set out, I am going to lock our path layer, and on our maps level, I'm going to just move these kind of into a place on the map so that it looks like the path is running into it. I just noticed a problem. If we go into our map object and check the origin, it looks like I set the origin on only on one frame. So make sure that the origin point is in the bottom left, and then go back up here to the origin under the image points panel and right click and say apply to whole animation. Unfortunately, I should have caught that the first time around, because now we have to go back through and do it to all of them. So just go to the next one, double click, make sure the origin point is in the bottom left, and say apply to whole animation. So do that with the rest of them. Can't believe I did that, but it happened. Now we can go back and move our castles into place. See, that actually lines up a lot better. There we go. That's a much better look. All right, let's head over to our layer panel again, and let's right click, add a layer to the top, and let's call this one level numbers. I'm going to lock my map levels. So on our levels number layer, let's go ahead and double click, scroll down to text, And let's place that in. Let's rename this txt underscore level numbers. I'm going to come over here and clean some of this up. We can close our levels, our tiles, and I'm going to move text level number into the text folder. We can open that up and we have a lot of text already. With this selected and highlighted, scroll down to the properties and I'm going to change the text to read 1. The font, I'm going to select, I think, Calibri. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. We can probably shorten this by quite a bit. Back over in the properties, I'm going to leave the size at 12. No bold or italic. I'm going to leave the color at black because that's going to show up on our, if we go in here and we look at the lighter colored, we're going to place it right in the middle right there, and it's going to show up on that very light gray background. So you want a dark color. Okay, I'm going to center all the alignments up. So horizontal center, vertical center, and origin center. I'm going to zoom in a little more, and I'm just going to, actually I need to turn snapping off, and I'm going to resize this box to be fairly small, and we can place it right like that. And I'm just eyeballing this. This isn't aligned with anything. I'm just placing it above the door and in between those two windows. Try to center it, I guess, as much as possible, but again, it doesn't really matter because it is pretty small, but it will show up. So when we make a new level, we will have to drag out another instance of our text level number object. We're not going to clone it like we do the level objects because these aren't going to have any code to them. If we have it selected, we can hold Control, click, and drag out a copy, just like that. And then with that selected, if I go down here to text, I can change that to 2. And you see this one stayed 1, that instance stayed 1, this instance changed to 2. I'm going to place that somewhere right about there. And then I will drag out another copy. I'm going to change that to 3. Get it placed where I want. Drag out another copy. And, well, you get the idea. I'm at the 8th level, and I'm going to do something a little different with this. I'm going to first change the color to white, and then I'm going to change the text to just say coming soon. And then we can stretch that out. And if you stretch it out far enough, it'll wrap or it'll unwrap. But if you come in, it'll wrap, and the second word will go down to the next line. So I'm just going to place this just right above the castle. So this is basically saying we have 7 playable levels, and when you pass level 7, you're going to get to that last level, and it's going to say, hey, we are very exhausted from developing this game. We are working on level 8. It is coming soon. Be patient. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that like that, just as a placeholder. Whenever we do get another level made, we can come delete this instance and just drag out another copy, change it to 8, and it's good to go. All right, let's just play this and see what it looks like. And right away, you notice we cycled through all the animations. We started from our grayed out first frame and went all the way through to the 5th frame, which is the 3 crowns. It has no functionality, so it's just what you see. The design part is good for right now. I'm going to lock that, and I'm going to head over to the event sheet for the map. To get those animations to stop playing, it's real easy. You can just say stop the animation. So if we add an event, we can say system, and on start of layout, And then we could add an action. We could go into our sprites, levels, and then we could pick obj level 1 and say stop. And then if we played it, it would stop that level 1 obj because that's the one we said to stop, but the rest of them play out. So instead of going through and stopping all 8 of these object levels, and as you add more levels, you're going to have to add more code to stop each individual one. We don't want to do that. So if we come over here to our project panel, scroll down and find the families. We've created 3 so far. Let's right click on the folder and say add family, and then come down here and pick all of our object levels and add those. Hit OK, and let's rename this FAM underscore map levels. And from this point forward, if we want to add any more levels and we create a new level object, we would just come down here and right click on our map levels family and say edit family, and then we would go find the object and add it to this list. It cuts way down on the work that we have to do. So back up here in the event sheet, with this action highlighted like this, I'm going to hit R on the keyboard, and that's going to bring up our replace option. And this says pick the object to replace obj level 1. And I want fam map levels. Say OK. And our stop animation is already there. So let's play that. And there we go. All of our levels are locked. All right. I'm going to exit out of that. One last thing before we're done with this one. I want to add an action to this start of layout. And let's go to our functions. And I'm going to call the fade in function. And I'm going to give it 1 second. 1 full second. Super dramatic, and it can stay right there. We can stop our animations first and then fade in. It's going to do this all at the same time anyways. No need to reorder that. And if we play, I'm glad we did that because that did not fade in. And the reason is in our functions, in the fade function, we are calling the tile fade object. And over here on our map layout, we do not have a tile fade object. Let's create a fade layer. And I'm going to add a layer to the top, and I'm just going to call it fade, just like all the others. I am going to come down to my tiles, grab my tile fade. So we want to make sure that this covers our dotted line viewport. And to keep this from moving, especially when we get further along in levels, our first view coming into the map is going to center on whichever level is available to play next. So our first view might be down here somewhere further on in the game. So to avoid this fade tile showing up in the wrong place, we're going to do what we did before, and we are going to change the parallax of the fade layer. So click on the fade layer over here, and then change the parallax to 0, 0, and that will prevent this from moving anywhere during gameplay. Okay, I'm going to lock that and make it invisible. And that is going to wrap it up for this first video on the map system. In the next video, we are going to make the scrolling feature. It's a pretty cool feature that you can implement into any game, especially useful for mobile games where you touch the screen and drag the view around. So we will get to that in the next video. I will see you there, and don't forget to save.